The bankruptcy filing listed one name at the top, Daniel Carter. That was him. Daniel walked into the executive meeting that morning expecting celebration. His CFO was already sitting, quiet, fingers tapping a pen against the table. "We need to talk about the expansion costs." No congratulations, no acknowledgement, just that. His COO, his best friend since college, leaned back in his chair. "We're investing in growth. This is how you scale." The CFO slid a spreadsheet across the table. "These numbers don't scale, they accelerate. Revenue projections assume 12% quarter-over-quarter growth. We've never hit above 7. The COO glanced at the sheet without picking it up. "Conservative projections lose deals. Clients want to see ambition. Clients want to see solvency." The CFO tapped a column. "Operational costs increased 42% in 6 months. Revenue increased 19. That gap doesn't close itself." The COO leaned forward. "It closes when the new clients come online. That's the whole point of expansion. You spend before you earn." "And if the clients don't materialize on your timeline?" "They will." The CFO looked at Daniel. "You're the deciding vote here." Daniel looked at the spreadsheet, then at his COO. The COO's expression didn't change, just steady, confident. "How long have we been doing this?" 15 years. "And how many times has playing it safe gotten us anywhere?" The CFO started to respond, but Daniel raised a hand. "I hear your concern. I do. But we didn't build this by avoiding risk." The CFO closed the folder. "Noted." The meeting ended. The expansion continued. The meeting ended. The expansion continued. Daniel stayed in his office after the others left. The spreadsheet the CFO had brought was still on his desk. He'd left it there, hadn't taken it with him. Daniel picked it up, looked at the numbers again. Operational costs, 42% increase. Revenue, 19% increase. The gap was there, right there in the third column. He set the paper down. His phone buzzed. Text from his COO. "Good call in there. Let's grab lunch next week." Daniel didn't reply right away, just sat there, the office quiet, the afternoon light coming through the blinds in straight lines across the floor. He looked at the spreadsheet one more time, then put it in a drawer. That night at dinner, his wife set her fork down. "You're second-guessing him." Daniel hadn't said anything yet. "I'm not second-guessing, You are. I can see it." She reached across the table, squeezed his hand. "The CFO's been with you, what, 4 years? 5? And your COO? Since the beginning. So who knows this business better?" Daniel didn't answer right away. "It's not about who knows it better. It's about the numbers. Numbers tell you what happened, not what's possible." She pulled her hand back, picked up her wine glass. "You've always trusted him. Don't start doubting that now because someone's scared of growth. He's not scared. He's cautious." "Is there a difference?" Daniel looked at her. "You really think I should ignore this? I think you should trust the person who's been in the room with you from day one." She took a sip. "He's kept this company alive before. Let him do it again." The bridge loan closed on a Wednesday. That night she asked how the meeting went. "It went fine. We got the capital." "So why do you look like that?" "Like what?" "Like you're waiting for something to go wrong." Daniel set his glass down. "The terms are aggressive. If we don't hit Q3 projections, you'll hit them. You don't know that. I know him, and I know you." She leaned forward. "How many times has he pulled something off that looked impossible on paper?" "This isn't about faith. It's about cash flow. It's always about cash flow, and he's always figured it out." Daniel didn't respond. She stood up, walked around the table, put her hands on his shoulders. "Stop carrying this alone. That's what you have him for." "I'm not carrying it alone." "Then act like it." She kissed the top of his head. "Trust him, like you always have." The loan went through. The company had breathing room again. For a few weeks, things felt normal. Payroll cleared on time. Vendor calls stopped coming in with the same urgency. The office had that rhythm again, the one that comes when people aren't worried about whether the lights will stay on. Daniel walked through the office on a Wednesday morning. The team was on calls, keyboards clicking. Someone laughed at something in the break room. It felt like 6 months ago, before the CFO raised concerns, before the late-night meetings about cash flow. His COO was in the conference room, door open, on a call with a client, voice steady, confident, the way it used to be. Daniel kept walking, went back to his office. His phone had 3 new emails, all routine, nothing urgent. He opened the first one. That's when the notification appeared. Subject line from the retailer: contract status update. Thursday morning, the envelope arrived. Heavy stock paper. Return address from a law firm he didn't recognize. Daniel opened it standing in the kitchen. The paper inside felt expensive. The kind of thick, cream-colored letterhead that costs extra. Petition for dissolution of marriage, filed by Sarah Mitchell Carter. No phone call before this, no conversation, no warning that she'd retained counsel. Just this. Sitting on his counter next to the coffee maker, he read the first paragraph. Petitioner seeks dissolution on grounds of irreconcilable differences. The language was clean, professional, like she was terminating a service contract. He set it down. The kitchen was quiet in that specific way spaces get when something shifts. His phone was on the counter. He picked it up, called her, straight to voicemail. He tried again. This time the number didn't even ring, just went dead, blocked. He stood there, the papers still on the counter, the coffee still warm in the pot. 2 nights ago, she'd sat across from him at this table and told him they'd rebuild. Her voice, that certainty, it was still in his head. Daniel didn't sleep much that night. Morning came. The papers were still on the counter where he'd left them. He made coffee, same routine, same mug. His phone was next to the coffee maker. He picked it up, her name in his contacts. He stared at it for a moment, then called. Voicemail again. He set the phone down, took a sip of coffee. The kitchen looked the same as it had 2 days ago. Same table, same chairs, same light coming through the window. But something had shifted. He checked his phone again, opened his banking app, tried to log into the joint account. The screen loaded. Then an error message appeared. Not the usual login screen. A notice. This account is currently restricted due to legal hold. The lawyer's office smelled like old wood and printer toner. Daniel sat across from a man he'd never met before. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and opened the file. Your wife filed for divorce under irreconcilable differences. That means no fault. She's not required to provide specific grounds. When did she file? The lawyer checked the date stamp. Day after the bankruptcy was finalized. Daniel didn't say anything. She's also claiming the house. Says it's separate property. It's not. We bought it together. The lawyer turned a page. Property records show it was transferred into her name 8 months ago. Sole ownership. That's not possible. Did you refinance recently? Yes, to lower the rate. Did you sign closing documents? Of course I signed, but I didn't. The lawyer slid a document across the desk. Page 17, quitclaim deed, your signature, notarized. Daniel stared at the page. His signature. Right there. I didn't know what I was signing. That's not a legal defense. The lawyer pulled the document back. The transfer's valid. She owns the house. And because it's in her name, it's not part of the bankruptcy estate. So she gets it. She gets it. Daniel sat there for a moment. What about the accounts? Joint accounts are frozen pending asset division. You won't have access until the court makes a determination. How long? Months. Maybe longer if she contests anything. And in the meantime? The lawyer closed the file. You figure out how to live on what's left. Monday morning, Daniel got in his car. He'd called the COO 3 more times over the weekend. Voicemail full. Couldn't leave a message. Sent 2 emails. Both bounced back. So he drove. The highway was the same route he'd taken for 15 years. Same exits. Same stretch of road where traffic always slowed near the interchange. He knew when to merge, when to accelerate, when the office building would appear on the right. It came into view. 15 stories. Glass front. Company logo on the side. He took the exit, pulled into the parking lot. His spot, the one with his name stenciled on the curb, the one near the entrance, had a car in it. Silver sedan. He didn't recognize it. He sat there for a moment, engine still running, then put the car in reverse, found a spot in visitor parking, turned off the engine, sat there. The building looked the same, the entrance, the glass doors. He got out, walked toward it. Daniel sat at his laptop that weekend, searched the state business registry, typed in keywords from the email signature he'd seen. The registered agent name appeared on screen, Marcus Webb, his best friend since college. The same person who'd walked into every boardroom with him for 15 years, now listed as the sole owner of a competing firm registered 2 weeks before bankruptcy. Monday morning, Daniel drove to the office. His parking spot, the one with his name stenciled on the curb, had someone else's car in it. A silver sedan he didn't recognize. He parked in visitor parking, walked to the front entrance. The same glass doors he'd walked through every morning for 15 years. He pulled his key card from his wallet, swiped it against the reader. Red light. Access denied. He swiped again. Slower this time, making sure the magnetic strip aligned. Red light. Same 2-tone beep. He tried a 3rd time. Nothing. Through the glass, the receptionist looked up from her desk, saw him standing there. She didn't move for a moment, just looked. Then she stood, walked to the door, opened it halfway, not all the way, just enough to talk through. He's not here. Daniel could see past her into the lobby. The furniture was the same. The company logo still on the wall behind her desk. Where is he? I don't know, and... She looked down. You're not on the access list anymore. The door closed. Not slammed, just closed. Professionally. The way doors close when security protocols are followed. His name was still on the building directory behind her. But the card reader didn't recognize him. The accountant called on a Tuesday. I've been through the first 6 months of records. And there's inconsistencies. What kind? The expansion contracts, the ones that accelerated spending. What about them? How many signatures were required for contracts over $100,000? 3. Mine, the CFO's, and board authorization. These only have 2. Pause. That's not possible. We have protocols. I'm looking at the documents right now. Your signature, his signature, no board approval. How did that get through? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Do you remember signing these specifically? Daniel tried to remember. We signed dozens of contracts during expansion. I don't remember everyone. Did your COO have electronic signature authority? For operational stuff, yeah, but not for major contracts. You sure? Daniel tried to remember the operating agreement. I think so. You need to be sure, because if he had authority, this is legal. Questionable, but legal. And if he didn't? Then he bypassed protocol without authorization. Long pause. I'll need to pull the operating agreement. Do that, because if he had authority, this is just bad judgment. If he didn't, the accountant didn't finish. I'll call you back. The call came a week later. The bridge loan, you remember the terms? Emergency capital, 6-month balloon payment. Did you read the repayment clause? Which one? Page 18, acceleration clause. What does it say? If the company files for bankruptcy, the full loan amount becomes due immediately, with company assets as collateral. Silence. That's standard for high-risk loans, right? Not like this. Most loans give you time to restructure. This one triggers on filing, meaning the second you declared bankruptcy, the loan became due in full. So it accelerated the collapse. It didn't just accelerate it, it was designed to trigger on it. The COO recommended that loan. I know. Did he know about that clause? He signed off on it. Whether he read it, I can't prove. Daniel sat with that. Who funded the loan? Private investment entity. I'm still tracking down the ownership structure. How long will that take? Could be a week. Could be longer if it's layered. Let me know when you find it. 2 weeks later, the accountant called again. The client that left, the major retailer. What about them? They didn't just leave. Someone referred them to a competitor. Who? Your COO. Long pause. How do you know that? Email. Still on the company server. He sent it 6 days before they canceled the contract. What did it say? I'm reading it now. Given the current financial uncertainty, you may want to explore other options. I can recommend a firm that specializes in seamless transitions. He recommended they leave? He recommended they go to the firm he just registered 2 weeks earlier. He stole the client. That's one way to put it. What's another way? The accountant didn't answer right away. Legally, he facilitated a business transition during a crisis. Whether that's theft or strategy depends on who's making the argument. It cost us the contract. It did. And it gutted our revenue. It did that too. Daniel closed his eyes. What else are you finding? I'll keep looking. The call came while Daniel was sitting in the rental kitchen. There's a wire transfer I need you to look at. From when? 11 months ago. Daniel pulled up his phone. Send it. The document loaded. $85,000, joint personal account, transferred to an LLC. Whose LLC? Your wife's. She's listed as the sole member. Daniel stared at the screen. When was this? 11 months ago, before the cash flow problems, before the bridge loan, before any of this started. Why would she move money then? That's the question. Did I authorize this? The transfer required dual authorization. Your signature's on file. I don't remember signing this. You might not have known what you were signing. Could have been bundled with other documents. Daniel scrolled through the transfer details. What was the LLC for? I'm still looking into that, but the timing's what matters here. Why? Because people don't move money 11 months before a crisis unless they're expecting one. Silence. Or creating one. The accountant didn't respond. Keep digging. Then the accountant found the metadata. Text message records from the company phone logs. The COO's phone was on the corporate plan. Every text was logged, not the content, just the timestamps and recipient numbers. Daniel pulled up the file on his laptop, started scrolling. One number appeared in the log. Then again, then again. He kept scrolling. The same number. Over and over. February 14th, 11:47 p.m. February 15th, 1:23 a.m. February 15th, 6:14 a.m. February 16th, 10:52 p.m. The list went on. All during the collapse. None during business hours. All late night, early morning. He highlighted the number. Ran a count function. 1,247 messages, 3 months, 1,247 texts to the same recipient. He opened a second window. Cross-referenced the number against his contact list. Match found. His wife's cell. Daniel's hands were still on the keyboard. He wasn't typing, just resting there. The laptop screen was the only light in the room. The cursor blinking in the search field. 1,247 messages. While he was trying to save the company, they were coordinating in the dark. Daniel sat at the kitchen table that night. Spread the documents out in front of him, one by one. The wire transfer, printed on standard copy paper. Date stamp, 11 months before the crisis started. The company registration, state filing receipt. Date, 2 weeks before bankruptcy. The divorce petition, cream-colored letterhead. Date, 1 day after bankruptcy finalized. The loan agreement. Page 18 highlighted. Acceleration clause designed to trigger. The email to the client. The COO's name in the sender field. Referral that gutted their revenue. The text message log, 1,247 entries. All to her number. He arranged them chronologically, left to right across the table. The dates lined up. Not close, not approximate, exact. The overhead light was on, the cheap fixture that came with the rental. It made everything look washed out. But the dates were clear. 11 months, 2 weeks, 1 day. He moved the wire transfer next to the company registration, then the divorce filing next to both. The pattern wasn't subtle. It was architectural. They hadn't scrambled when things went bad. They'd been building this, month by month, document by document. And he'd signed off on almost every piece without knowing what he was approving. Daniel's phone rang. Her name on the screen. First time in 6 months. He answered. "You need to drop this." No hello, no preamble. Drop what? The investigation, the complaints, all of it. Why would I do that? Because you're destroying people's jobs. You're making this personal. It is personal. It doesn't have to be. Her voice was tight, not steady like it used to be. You're going after him because you're angry. I get it. But this hurts everyone. I'm not going after him. I'm asking questions. You filed a federal complaint. I reported inconsistencies to the bankruptcy trustee. That's not an attack. That's transparency. It's vindictive. If there's nothing to hide, the investigation won't find anything. Long pause. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. No, you don't. You think this is about justice. It's not. It's about you being unable to let go. Let go of what? My company? My house? My marriage? She didn't answer. If you want me to drop this, tell me why. Silence. Tell me what you're afraid they'll find. She hung up. The complaint was filed that week. Then came the waiting. Weeks passed. Daniel heard nothing. He checked the bankruptcy case docket online every few days. New filings appeared, motions, responses, technical procedural documents he didn't fully understand. Then, 5 weeks after the complaint was filed, a letter arrived. Not email, certified mail, the kind that requires a signature. He opened it standing at the mailbox. Trustee's office letterhead. Investigation into asset transfers and corporate restructuring. Deposition scheduled for March 8th and March 12th. Your presence is not required, but you may attend if you choose. March 8th. He checked his phone. That was 3 weeks away. The letter listed 2 names. His COO, first deposition. His wife, second. Daniel folded the letter. Put it in his jacket pocket. 3 weeks. He marked the date on his calendar, then waited. Deposition day arrived on a cold morning in March. The COO showed up with his lawyer, confident, tailored suit, the same energy he'd always had in boardrooms, like he'd already won. The trustee's lawyer started with basic questions: name, role, timeline of employment. Then the documents came out. When did you register your current business entity? A few months after the bankruptcy was finalized. The lawyer pulled a document from the folder, placed it face down on the table between them, then slid it across, slowly, deliberately. The paper made a soft sound against the wood surface. The COO looked at it, didn't pick it up, just looked. This shows a registration date 2 weeks before the bankruptcy was filed. Can you explain the discrepancy? The COO picked up the paper, read it. The room was quiet. 4 people at the table. No one moved. Daniel could see the COO's jaw tighten slightly. Not a lot. Just enough. I may have misremembered the exact timing. The lawyer didn't react. No expression change. Just pulled the document back. 2 weeks before? Or several months after? Which is it? I'd have to check my records. These are your records. The COO's lawyer leaned over, whispered something, his hand on the COO's forearm. The COO nodded. I registered the entity as a contingency, in case restructuring didn't work. Did you inform your business partner of this contingency? Pause. Longer this time. It didn't seem relevant at the time. The lawyer let that answer sit there, didn't rush to the next question, just let the silence build. Then pulled out another document. Did you recommend that the primary client consider alternative service providers during the financial crisis? I don't recall sending any communication like that. The lawyer placed an email in front of him, his name in the sender field, date stamped 6 days before the client left. Does this refresh your memory? The COO read it. I may have sent a courtesy notification, standard industry practice. To a competitor you'd just registered? Silence. Was the competitor you recommended your own entity? I recommended a qualified firm. Was it your firm? It became my firm, yes, after they left your original company. After the bankruptcy made continued service untenable. The lawyer let that sit, then pulled out another document. You signed off on a bridge loan in month 7 of the financial crisis, correct? Correct. Were you aware of the acceleration clause in the repayment terms? I reviewed the loan, yes. That's not what I asked. Were you aware that the loan would become due in full upon bankruptcy filing? That's standard for high-risk lending. Did you disclose that clause to your business partner? He had access to all the loan documents. Did you specifically disclose it? Pause. I assumed he reviewed them. You assumed. The COO's lawyer put a hand on his arm. The trustee's lawyer shuffled through more papers. How many expansion contracts were executed during the crisis period? I don't have an exact number. 15 contracts totaling $2.4 million. Do you recall those? In general, yes. How many required board approval? All contracts over $100,000 require board approval. Then why do these contracts only show 2 signatures? He slid the stack across. Yours and his. No board authorization. The COO looked at them. I had electronic signature authority. For operational contracts under $50,000. The authority extended to all necessary business functions. Says who? The operating agreement. I've read the operating agreement. It doesn't say that. The COO shifted in his seat. Then it was an operational interpretation. Whose interpretation? No answer. The lawyer pulled another document. During the layoffs in month 8, 40% of staff were terminated, correct? That's correct. What was your salary during that period? The COO glanced at his lawyer. I'd have to check the exact figure. $240,000 annually. Does that sound right? Approximately. Did your salary continue during the layoffs? Yes. Did it continue through the bankruptcy filing? Pause. The interim restructuring role required. Did it continue? Yes. So 15 employees were let go while your compensation remained unchanged. The COO's lawyer leaned forward. My client's compensation was determined by the board prior to the crisis. The trustee's lawyer didn't respond to that, just made a note, then looked back at the COO. When did you first solicit clients for your new entity? After the bankruptcy was finalized. Are you certain? Yes. The lawyer placed an email on the table. Date stamp. 3 weeks before bankruptcy filing. Subject line. Exploring partnership opportunities. Does this change your answer? The COO read it. His lawyer read it over his shoulder. That was exploratory, not solicitation. It's sent to a client of your original company 3 weeks before bankruptcy, offering services identical to what your original company provided. It was contingency planning. Did you inform your business partner you were conducting contingency planning with his clients? No answer. The lawyer closed the folder. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks. Bring your records. The following week, his wife arrived for her deposition. Daniel sat in the back of the room. He didn't have to be there, but the trustee's office had said he could attend if he wanted. She walked in with her lawyer, didn't look at him, just sat down. The trustee's lawyer started the same way. Name, basic information, timeline. Then the questions shifted. You filed for divorce one day after the bankruptcy was finalized. Is that correct? Yes. Can you walk me through that decision? The marriage had been struggling for a long time. How long? Months. Maybe longer. But you waited until the day after bankruptcy to file. The timing was coincidental. The lawyer placed the divorce filing on the table. Filing date, day after bankruptcy finalized. Then placed another document next to it. Wire transfer from joint account to LLC in your name. Date, 11 months before bankruptcy. Then another. LLC formation documents. Date, 13 months before bankruptcy. She looked at the documents. I don't see the connection. You moved $85,000 out of a joint account 11 months before your husband filed for bankruptcy, then filed for divorce one day after that bankruptcy was finalized. And you're saying the timing was coincidental? I trusted him with the business decisions. He said we needed to protect some assets for tax purposes. Did he tell you to form the LLC? Pause. He suggested it might be useful. Whose name is on the LLC formation documents? Mine. Who signed the wire transfer authorization? I did. So you formed the LLC, you authorized the transfer, but you're saying you had no knowledge of business decisions? Her lawyer interjected. My client trusted her husband's guidance on financial matters. That doesn't mean... The trustee's lawyer raised a hand. I'm asking her, not you. He looked back at her. You stated you had no involvement in business decisions, but you personally authorized an $85,000 transfer to an entity you personally formed. Which is it? She didn't answer right away. I signed what he asked me to sign. Did he ask you to file for divorce? That's not... Did he ask you to transfer the house into your name 8 months before the crisis? We refinanced. That was part of the process. A quitclaim deed transferring sole ownership to you was part of the refinance process. Silence. Did you read the documents you signed? I trusted him. The lawyer let that answer sit, then placed another document on the table. Text message metadata, your phone number, 1,247 messages exchanged with the COO over a 3-month period during the crisis. All outside business hours. Can you explain that? Her lawyer put a hand on her arm. We'd like to request a break. The trustee's lawyer checked his watch. 15 minutes. The case expanded over the following months. Other creditors came forward. A vendor who'd shipped materials for the final expansion phase. $47,000 unpaid. He filed a claim with the trustee showing emails where the COO had approved the order, then stopped responding after delivery. The landlord for the office space. Last 3 months of rent unpaid while the company was still operating. He submitted lease agreements and payment records showing the COO had signed a renewal 2 weeks before the bankruptcy filing. An IT contractor who'd upgraded the server infrastructure during expansion. $22,000 outstanding. He had invoices signed by the COO marked as approved, never paid. The trustee requested a full forensic audit of both businesses. Then the employees started talking. One of the laid-off staff posted in an industry forum, not naming names, just stating facts. Worked for a company that laid off 40% of staff during financial trouble. Found out later the COO's salary never changed. Then found out he'd registered a new company 2 weeks before we filed bankruptcy. Do with that information what you will. The post got shared. Comments accumulated. Industry blogs picked it up. A trade publication ran a piece in their news briefs section. Bankruptcy raises questions about executive conduct. A prominent local firm's Chapter 11 filing has sparked scrutiny after former employees alleged financial irregularities during the restructuring process. Court documents show the article didn't editorialize, just summarize the public filings. But it was out there now. Public record. A professional association's discussion board picked up the thread. People in the industry started asking questions. Then the clients started noticing. The first LinkedIn post came from a mid-sized firm. Just learned the vendor we've been working with may have been established under questionable circumstances. Reviewing our options and doing due diligence. Transparency matters. 2 days later, another client sent an email to the COO directly. Daniel never saw the email, but the COO's response got filed as part of discovery. These allegations are unfounded and part of a vindictive campaign by a disgruntled former partner. Our service quality speaks for itself. The client forwarded that response to their legal team, then posted again. Asked for clarification, got defensiveness. That tells me what I need to know. A third client didn't name the COO's company specifically, just posted a vague caution. PSA. When hiring consultants, check their incorporation dates against any prior business affiliations. You'd be surprised what you might find. The unraveling wasn't loud, it was steady. Each revelation, each vendor claim, each employee post, each client question added weight, not individually damning, but cumulatively. The pattern was clear. A settlement offer arrived in May. His lawyer called. They want to close this. Made an offer. What kind of offer? $180,000. The COO returns partial company assets, client list access, some equipment still in storage. Dissolves the new entity voluntarily. You both sign an NDA and agree to make no further public statements about the case. Daniel didn't say anything. The money would come within 30 days. You could use it. I know your situation. What happens if I decline? The case continues. Trustee keeps investigating. Could take another year, maybe 2. No guarantee you see any money at the end. But the findings stay public. The findings stay public either way. This is just about money and closure. Daniel asked the lawyer to send the written offer. It arrived an hour later. He read it twice. The dollar amount was there. $180,000. More than he'd seen in a year and a half. The terms were clear. The COO would admit no wrongdoing. The settlement would be characterized as a business dispute resolved amicably. Then he got to page 3, the NDA clause. Parties agree to make no further public statements, written or verbal, regarding the business relationship, dissolution, or circumstances surrounding the bankruptcy filing. He read that line again. No further public statements, which meant the depositions would stay in the record, the filings would stay public, but he couldn't talk about it, couldn't respond if asked, couldn't clarify if the story got twisted later. He sat with that. His phone buzzed, text from the lawyer. Thoughts? They want an answer by end of week. Daniel set the phone down. $180,000 would change his situation. He could move out of the rental, fix his credit faster, stop worrying about whether he could afford the forensic accountant's final bill. But the NDA would close the door. He called the lawyer back. If I decline, does the investigation continue at the same pace? Probably faster. They'll take this as a signal you're not interested in settling. Trustee will keep pushing. And the public record? Everything that's been filed stays filed. Everything that gets discovered moving forward gets filed too. So declining doesn't hurt the case. Doesn't hurt it, just extends it. Daniel looked at the NDA clause one more time. I'm declining. Pause on the other end. You sure? This is real money? I know. Then why? Because this was never about the money. His lawyer didn't argue, just said he'd notify them in writing. The offer was declined that afternoon. The offer was declined in writing. The case continued. Court dates stretched across months, filings, responses, motions to compel, discovery disputes. Daniel showed up when his lawyer said he needed to, sat in waiting rooms outside courtrooms, watched people come and go with folders and briefcases. The trustees' investigation expanded. More creditors came forward, more documents requested, more depositions scheduled. Summer passed, then fall. The case moved slowly, not because anyone was stalling, just because that's how the system worked. One hearing got continued because the COO's lawyer filed for an extension. Another got rescheduled because the judge had a conflict. Daniel went back to the rental each time, checked his phone for updates, read the filings when they appeared on the docket. The accountant called occasionally. Found something new, another discrepancy, another document that didn't line up. Winter came, then spring again. Then the trustee's office sent the final notice. Case resolved. Settlement approved by court. 18 months after the bankruptcy was finalized. 18 months after his wife had filed for divorce. 18 months of waiting for the system to confirm what he'd already known. 18 months after the bankruptcy was finalized, the case settled. The court cleared Daniel of all wrongdoing. The forensic audit confirmed. The collapse was accelerated by decisions made without proper authorization. The COO's new entity was dissolved by court order. Client contracts voided for fraudulent acquisition. The clients who'd been transferred received partial restitution from the remaining entity assets. His wife's divorce was finalized, but her asset claims were denied after the transfer timeline was exposed. The house went to auction. Neither of them got it. Daniel didn't get the company back. The damage was done. The clients were gone. The brand was tarnished beyond repair, but neither did they. He'd lost 18 months, not just time, concrete things. He applied for an apartment 6 months into the case. Better than the rental, closer to the industry center. Credit application denied. The bankruptcy was still on his record. He interviewed for a consulting role at a firm he'd worked with years ago. The interview went well until they ran the background check. We saw the bankruptcy filing. Can you explain what happened there? He could, but the explanation took 20 minutes. And even then, the hiring manager's expression said, "This is complicated and complicated is risky." He didn't get the job. But other things shifted slowly. An industry contact who'd read the court filings reached out, not with a job, just to say he'd seen what happened, that he'd had questions during the collapse, that the filings answered them. That conversation led to another, which led to a small consulting project, enough to cover rent and start rebuilding. Then another project, then another. Not a company, not ownership, just work, enough to function. His savings were gone. Legal fees and forensic accounting had taken everything he'd managed to keep out of the joint accounts. His relationship with his brother had strained. Daniel had kept the case quiet, didn't want to explain it, didn't want the questions. His brother thought he was being secretive, thought he was hiding something. They didn't talk for 8 months, but the credit score started climbing again. Slowly. Applications that had been denied 6 months earlier started getting approved. The bankruptcy was still there, still visible, but time was moving it further into the past. The court's settlement terms were clear. The COO's entity wasn't dissolved voluntarily. It was court-ordered. He didn't choose to walk away. The trustee forced it. The client contracts weren't returned gracefully. They were voided. The clients were notified by the court, not by him. His wife didn't get everything she'd positioned. The house, the LLC, the $85,000 she'd transferred. The court traced it all. And when the divorce was finalized, the judge cited the transfer timing in denying her asset claims. She walked away with less than she'd had before the marriage. Daniel still rented, couldn't buy a house, couldn't qualify for a mortgage. But he was working again. Some people in the industry still thought he'd just been bad at business, that the bankruptcy was mismanagement, not theft. But the ones who mattered, The ones who read the filings, who saw the deposition transcripts, who understood what the forensic audit found, they knew different. The bankruptcy wasn't incompetence. It was theft. And theft leaves a paper trail. That trail was public now, permanent. He thought that was the end of it. The case was closed. The records were public. The damage was done. Then the forensic accountant called one more time. It had been 6 weeks since the settlement was finalized. "I wasn't going to call you about this." Daniel was in his car, parked outside a client meeting. "Why are you calling?" "I was doing final reconciliation, closing out the files, making sure everything balanced." Pause. "And?" "There's another wire transfer." Daniel didn't say anything. "Different account. Same time period. I almost missed it because it wasn't part of the joint accounts we were tracking. It came from a business line of credit you'd taken out 3 years ago." "How much?" $120,000. "When?" 11 months before the crisis started. Same window as the transfer to your wife's LLC. Daniel sat there, engine off, phone against his ear. "Where did it go?" "That's why I'm calling." The accountant sent the document. Daniel pulled it up on his phone. "Wire transfer authorization, business account, date stamp, 13 months before the first cash flow problems emerged. Amount, $120,000. Recipient, Carter Consulting Group, LLC. He didn't recognize the name. He called the accountant back. "What's Carter Consulting Group?" "I didn't know either. That's why I kept looking." The accountant walked him through it. The LLC was formed 14 months before the crisis. Single-member entity, registered in Delaware, standard structure. Nothing unusual about the setup. But the registered agent, the name listed as the legal contact for the entity, that's what stopped him. "I ran the name through the state database, found the articles of incorporation." "And?" "You need to see it yourself. I'm sending it now." The document came through. Daniel opened it, scrolled down to the registered agent field. The name appeared, Richard Hayes. He read it once, then again, his former CFO. Daniel sat in the car. The parking lot was quiet. The client meeting was in 10 minutes, but he wasn't moving. He thought back to the meeting. The one where the CFO had raised concerns about expansion costs. That was month 6 of the crisis. But the wire transfer to Carter Consulting Group? That happened 2 months before the meeting. The CFO hadn't been warning him. He'd already been paid. $120,000, transferred before there was any crisis to warn about, which meant the concerns he raised in the meeting, the spreadsheet, the projections, the careful pushback, none of that was caution. It was cover. Make himself look like the responsible one, the one who tried to stop it, the one who objected on the record. Then 6 months later, he left. Voluntarily. No explanation. No forwarding contact. Just gone. Daniel had thought he'd burned out, couldn't handle the stress of the collapse. But he hadn't burned out. He'd taken his money and exited before the final stage, left the COO and his wife to finish it. 3 people, not 2. The affair was real. The text messages, the 1,247 conversations in the dark while Daniel was trying to save the company. The theft was real, the client referrals, the new entity, the coordination. But the plan? That started earlier than any of them let on. The CFO got paid first, 13 months before the collapse. Then he created his paper trail, raised objections, made himself look innocent. Then he left cleanly. No lawsuits, no blame, just disappeared. His wife positioned the house, moved the $85,000, set up the LLC, then filed for divorce the day after bankruptcy. The COO stole the clients, registered the new company, took over operations while Daniel's authority was suspended. Each of them had a role. Each of them had a window. Each of them had a target. And Daniel had trusted all 3. He looked at the document again. Carter Consulting Group, formed 14 months before the crisis. The CFO's name on the registration. The $120,000 transferred 2 months before he raised his first concern in a meeting. It wasn't chaos. It wasn't even opportunism. It was a system. And if 3 people built it over more than a year, coordinating payments and exits and filings, how many others were involved? Who else had been positioned? What other entities were set up that he didn't know about? What happened next took 2 more years to surface, and it didn't just destroy 2 people. It exposed the network that made it possible. The CFO wasn't a whistleblower. He was the architect. And what he built didn't stop with one company. It was a blueprint. If this story meant something to you, comment where you're watching from and what time it is right now. And if you want part 2, just comment part 2. We're building a community of people who appreciate stories like this. Every subscription moves us closer to 10,000. Your name matters here. Will you be with us when we hit it?